help you?
This is my hood, pendejo. You don't fucking belong here.
Listen, I got some personal stuff going on that makes me have to be here, so why don't you take your lively, chubby and get the fuck off my car?
It's my fucking hood.
Come on, rob me.
Kung Fu this!
Tell every motherfucker on the street they not safe till I find the motherfucker who killed my son. You understand me?
Come on.
Shit. Come on, let's go, guys. Let's have a little fun. Let's go.
Keep moving, white boy! You stupid mother. Didn't you hear me, white boy?
Call him white boy, motherfucker.
Let's go!
In the opening scene, we are introduced to Max Ballister, an honest police officer who is extremely dedicated to his job. Max and his wife, Linda, currently live in Los Angeles, a city known for its high crime rate. While on his way to work, Max witnesses two corrupt police officers detaining two cartel members. The crooked police officer sees evidence in the shape of ready-to-distribute narcotics packets. However, someone else receives the evidence instead of the investigators. Max, who observes this, instantly takes a photograph to use as evidence against the two corrupt police officers. Unfortunately, the two crooked officers catch Max photographing their deeds and force him to flee the scene. That night, Max looks over the images he took earlier in the day, which show the two corrupt police officers handing over the drug package proof to someone in a car. Unfortunately, he is unable to determine the identity of the drug delivery receiver because only the man's hands are visible. Gary, Max's informant, contacts him at that moment, claiming to possess crucial details about the task he is carrying out. Gary then extends an invitation to Max to convene at a designated location. Max immediately agrees to the meeting. Max is on the verge of leaving when Linda stops him, citing the late hour of the night, but he disregards her advice and his fears. When Max arrives at the meeting site, he rushes to approach Gary but gets shot by an unidentified individual, resulting in his death. The following day, Max's burial takes place, and Simon, Max's biological father, comes.
Hey! 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 Hey!
Simon, a former gangster boss, once ruled the city and inspired fear. However, Simon has long since renounced his life as a gangster, as his son chose to become a police officer. Simon is crushed at the time by the death of his beloved son, especially as they have not spoken in 10 years owing to family issues. Simon promptly confronts Linda about the cause of his son's death, to which she responds that Max died in a regular heist, a claim that Linda does not believe. On the other hand, Linda believes that a drug trafficking gang, which included corrupt police officers, set up Max's death. Simon, who is unable to accept his son's murder, plans to carry out a revenge expedition. As a result, Simon decides to stay in the city temporarily. Simon then takes a lease on a house belonging to a woman named Alice. After seeing the room he would occupy, Simon returns to his car to retrieve his luggage. Unexpectedly, a mob boss and his subordinates challenge Simon, seeking revenge for the harm Simon caused them several years ago, which left him in a hospital coma.
Can I help you?
This is my hood, pendejo. You don't fucking belong here.
Listen, I got some personal stuff going on that makes me have to be here, so why don't you take your lively, chubby ass and get the fuck off my car?
It's my fucking hood.
Come on, rob me.
Kung Fu this!
Tell every motherfucker on the street they not safe till I find the motherfucker who killed my son. You understand me?
Come on.
That night, Simon examines the case file that Max was handling in search of evidence concerning his son's murderer. Inside the file, Simon discovers a business card for an investigator named Frank Shaw. The next morning, Simon rushes straight to the police station to visit Frank and inquire about the status of Max's death investigation. Frank adds that he has not yet located the offender, but he promises to conduct a thorough investigation into Max's murder. Simon then asks Frank if he knows or has ever met Max in person. Frank then says that he has only been on duty in Los Angeles for a week, so he has not had the opportunity to get to know or meet Max. After hearing this explanation, Simon begins to assume Frank is involved in Max's killing. Furthermore, Simon discovers that Frank lied when he claimed not to know his son, despite the fact that Max had saved his business card and phone number. Nonetheless, Simon does not want to act hastily without more evidence of Frank's involvement. When night strikes, Gary approaches Simon and claims to be an informant for Max. Gary recognizes Simon as a former gangster lord who previously commanded power in Los Angeles. Simon's harshness in the past earned him the nickname the Brave One. Gary then reveals that he intended to see Max on the night of his death, but an unknown assailant shot him instead. In light of this testimony, Simon requests Gary's help in identifying the individuals accountable for his son's death. Strangely, Gary refuses to assist Simon because he is frightened of suffering the same fate as Max. A crew of criminals attacks Simon shortly after Gary leaves.
Knock knock, nigga.
Simon then questions the thugs he defeated about who gave them the order to assassinate him. However, the gang members chose to remain silent until Simon became irritated and shot them. Meanwhile, at a mob hideout, Armand Tucker, a gangster boss, is discussing his illegal business with his associate, Benny. People recognize Armand as a violent figure who shows no mercy, as demonstrated by his anger towards Benny and his careless murder of his business partner over a minor disagreement. At that point, Frank enters and inquires as to whether Armand has taken care of Simon. Frank says their lives are in danger as long as Simon is alive because he will investigate their murder of Max. Armand then explains that he sent his men to kill Simon. Their talk reveals that they work together to handle the narcotics industry in Los Angeles. Moments afterward, Armand's right-hand man arrives to report the failure to eliminate Simon. When Armand learns this, he is enraged with his men for failing to eliminate Simon, who is alone. When Armand is about to shoot his subordinate, Frank intervenes, warning him that Simon will be a problem for them. Armand calmly dismisses Simon, a former mob boss notorious for his savagery. Furthermore, Armand believes he is considerably more terrifying than Simon, who is elderly and no longer in control. Armand asserts that as the strongest gangster in Los Angeles, he can easily get rid of Simon. In fact, he is eager to eliminate Simon using his own hands. We shift to Simon, who is telling Alice about his tragic history. At that point, Simon confesses that Max was the reason he left the criminal life, but now he feels compelled to return as a vicious gangster to exact revenge for his son's death. The next day, Simon meets with Gary again, believing that Gary knows who killed his son. Furthermore, Simon states that he is willing to pay any amount as long as Gary agrees to help him. Eventually, after receiving a large bribe, Gary agrees to meet with Simon and shares information about El Chivo, a Mexican gangster lord. Gary apparently believes El Chivo and his crew were responsible for Max's death that night. So he instantly gives Simon the address of a nightclub where El Chivo and his gang frequently congregate. Isaiah, Gary's older brother and a known member of Armand's squad, approaches Gary after Simon leaves. It turns out that Isaiah has come to tell his brother not to interact with Simon anymore, since if Armand finds out, he will not hesitate to kill him. Furthermore, Gary deliberately pitted Simon against El Chivo to protect Isaiah, who was complicit in Max's murder. That night, Simon visits the nightclub to meet El Chivo, whom he already knows as a previous business associate. At that point, Simon inquires as to whether El Chivo was responsible for the death of his kid, which El Chivo promptly rejects. El Chivo claims that he cannot commit such a thing because Simon is an old friend whom he truly respects. As a result, El Chivo notifies Simon that Armand has become the new gangster boss in Los Angeles. El Chivo is convinced that Armand and his gang killed Max. El Chivo further reveals that Armand's gang frequently causes difficulties in his jurisdiction by confiscating cocaine parcels belonging to the group. However, corrupt police officers shield Armand and his gang, rendering El Chivo powerless to intervene. When Simon hears this confession, he believes Gary lied to him and set him up against El Chivo. The next day, Isaiah and his companions abruptly ambush Simon while he is driving his car, leading to a high-speed chase filled with gunfire. Simon then lures the gang guys who are attacking him into a remote location, where he effectively set them into a serious crash. Simon then gets out of the car and confronts Isaiah about who assigned them. Under pressure, Isaiah ultimately admits that Armand assigned them. A few hours later, Isaiah informs Armand that he has failed to eliminate Simon. Armand is enraged that his subordinate has failed to assassinate Simon yet again. Armand is also upset about Isaiah's decision to inform Simon about his involvement in the attack. In his rage, Armand assigns Isaiah to kill Simon once more but warns that if he fails, he will eliminate his family. On the other hand, El Chivo's group is pursuing Gary. At that point, El Chivo's soldiers are upset with Gary for pitting Simon against their master.
Come on, let's go, guys. Let's have a little fun. Let's go.
He's scared. Keep moving, white boy. You stupid mother. Didn't you hear me, white boy?
Call him white boy, mother. Let's go.
As a result, Gary thanks Simon for saving his life and apologizes for pitting him against El Chivo. Gary says that he did all of this to save his older brother's life. Knowing this, Simon promises Gary that he will not kill Isaiah if he gives him the address of Armand's gang stronghold. Regardless, Gary refuses and walks away from Simon. Unexpectedly, Simon conceals a tracking device in Gary's bag. Gary later phones Isaiah to alert him that Simon is hunting for Armand's gang hideout in order to eliminate him and all of his men. However, Isaiah assures Gary that Armand's group will eliminate Simon first. Isaiah then encourages Gary to participate in his gang's illicit actions that night, which include plundering El Chivo's cartel. Rumors are circulating that El Chivo is planning to engage in a significant drug transaction. Simultaneously, Simon, who overhears the conversation between Isaiah and Gary, plans to go to the location of the drug exchange. When Simon arrives at the indicated place, he observes Armand and Frank prepared to carry out the robbery. While El Chivo's crew is carrying out the transaction, Frank takes decisive action, killing one of the gangsters. This leads to a shootout between the two parties with both sides thinking the other has double-crossed them. Soon after, Armand and his men steal both the transaction money and the drug packages belonging to El Chivo's deceased gang members. Simon eventually understands Frank is a crooked police officer who is doing illegal business with Armand. Simon then implanted a GPS device under Armand's and Frank's cars, allowing him to easily track them as they drove to Armand's secret lair. Simon easily infiltrated the location and overheard a conversation between Armand and Frank about selling the cocaine to a Colombian cartel. They also scheduled the transaction for tomorrow night. After their conversation, they left the underground hideout. Simon quickly grasped the opportunity to enter the drug storage area. Simon returned to his accommodation a few hours later, and the tracker he had placed on Armand's car revealed that the gang was on its way to kill him. Simon then instructed Alice to hide while he confronted the gangsters. Simon quickly dispatched the majority of Armand's troops. Simon persuaded Alice to leave as he felt the environment was no longer safe. Unfortunately, Simon found himself outside the building, confronting Armand and the remaining gang members. Simon sustained a gunshot wound while defending Alice during a shootout. Just as Armand and his men were about to finish them off, the sound of police sirens interrupted them, forcing them to leave. After his condition improved, Simon continued his quest for vengeance by preparing a visit to Gary to discover Armand's hiding place. When Simon arrived at Gary's house, Isaiah accosted him, but he assaulted him and his goons right away since he didn't want to waste any time. Simon then compelled Gary to discuss Max's death. In an attempt to protect Isaiah, Gary revealed to Simon that Frank was the shooter who killed Max. Gary explains that he had planned to meet Max and warn him about a plan to assassinate him organized by Armand and Frank. However, he arrived late but witnessed Max's murder and couldn't do anything to help. Upon learning this, Simon returned to the accommodation to collect weapons for his retribution expedition. The scene shifts to Armand and Frank, who are executing a transaction with the Colombian cartel, oblivious to Simon's successful penetration of their hideout. As a result, the transaction failed since Simon had already switched all of the medication packages Armand had stored with baking flour. Enraged by the betrayal, the Colombian cartel engaged Armand's squad in a shootout. At the same time, Simon was eliminating Armand's men one by one. The gunfight claimed the lives of members of the Colombian cartel and Armand's crew, leaving only Armand and Frank. Furthermore, when Frank ran out of ammunition, he forced a duel with Simon, who easily defeated the corrupt detective. Armand suddenly intervenes the fight, but Simon finishes Frank regardless. Simon then quickly disarms Armand but then decides to spare him since he had avenged Max's death already. Simon then walks out of the mobster hideout, choosing to lay low once again. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.